Hi, shalom, friends. You know, a question has more than one meaning. You could use a question to gather information. I mean, something as simple as, hello, do you have a watch? What time is it? There's also the sense of a question at times where you create an uncertainty. For example, let's say there's a child who hasn't been going to class and he's truant. He's called into the principal's office, who tells him, young man, your return to class is under question. And then another way to use question is actually as a challenge. Like you might find someone saying, I challenge your authority. I question your authority. And it's in the third meaning that I pose the following question. A challenge. Is there anything that you could suggest that would change the world for the better? That's hey, pat yourself on the back. I'm asking you your opinion. Anything that you could suggest that would change the world for the better. So this question challenges us to think, what might it be? And I could imagine certain responses. One response would be, why are you asking me for? I can't do anything. Others would say, sure, cut down on carbon emissions, banish war, and so on. Very, very large projects. Get rid of world hunger, get rid of Ebola. But when you hear a question like that, the best way to approach such a question is to imagine yourself as that world. As we all know, there's the larger world and the smaller world, the miniature world. The individual is a miniature world. So ask yourself a simple question. Is there one thing that you could suggest that would change the world / your world for the better? Well, I'll offer an answer. It's one word: kindness. Friends, you could change the world completely by adding in kindness. It's a remarkable fact of history that our father Abraham, who lived over 4,000 years ago, essentially changed the world through kindness. It is written in all of the encyclopedias, it's certainly in our tradition, that Abraham was born into a world of paganism, a world of multi gods, each one competing for the allegiance of a certain people and a certain time and a certain season of the year. And Abraham basically made a revolution. He said, no, there's only one God for all seasons, and one God for all people, and one God for all actions. There's not the God of love and the God of hate and the God of summer and the God of winter. There's just one God who created all. And this one God is personally and intimately involved with all of us. I mean, that's a real revolution. It goes against everything that society and people have been brought up with. How did he change them? How do we have today the Jewish religion and the religions that derive their inspiration from Judaism, whether it be Christianity or Islam or who knows how many other sects, which are basing their traditions and philosophy on the Jewish tradition of Torah, based on the oneness of God, which was introduced to all of us through Abraham. How did he do it? How many wars must he have waged? Friends, you know what it says? He conquered the world through kindness. Abraham was probably the kindest person in his day and age. The rabbis poetically describe his kindness. He was very hospitable. He welcomed all. A person would come in hungry, leave satiated. He was so concerned and so involved in helping people that he had a tent that had 4 flaps that were open. Just in case someone was coming from the east, he should find an open door. Perhaps someone would be coming from the west. He shouldn't even have to walk around. No, let him go straight into the tent of Abraham. And so too north and east, north and south. He conquered the world one by one, each individual being exposed to a generosity, a man of compassion, and experienced the kindness. It's hot and dusty, and here you are welcome to have refreshments, as much as you want, as much as you need. And then when you want to thank me, don't thank me. Thank the one who gives all of us. Thank the one who makes the sun shine, the rain fall. Thank the one who makes things grow. Thank the one who gives us health. And each person was touched deeply by this act of kindness. A stranger didn't demand anything of them, instead bestowed upon them, gave them something, and then when the natural human instinct is to show some gratitude, he said, I don't want the gratitude. Give it to the one who truly bestows kindness, and that's the Almighty. And friends, here we are, thousands of years later, a world populated by believers, and in a world which is filled with kindness and yet sorely needs additional kindness. So how can you change the world for the better? Be kind. To who, you ask? It's easy to be kind to yourself. We call it selfish, actually. No. Being kind means look at someone else. Treat someone else with the consideration that you would want to be treated with. Kindness expresses itself in many ways. Certainly in hospitality, in generosity, in looking with a good eye, being thankful for someone else's good fortune, and so on and so forth. You never know that effect. Imagine being kind, whether it be to the terribly unfortunate, or whether it be to a colleague. Just an act of kindness, an act of consideration, could actually change that person's day, that person's life. And I would like to share with you, I believe, a truth. I can't prove it, but I believe it to be a truth. And that is, people pass on kindness. If they're treated kindly, they treat others kindly. If they were treated with consideration and with thoughtfulness, they do that further to someone else, to a stranger. And indeed, that one act of kindness changes the world. Just recently, I read something from Rabbi Gaisinski, who claims that he heard this from the man himself. There was a fellow called Yankel, lived in Crown Heights, and he was a Holocaust survivor. And he heard from this young man, I say young man, actually he was an elderly man when he met him, but actually Yankel was 16 years old when the Holocaust was taking place. I won't say the word bore you, God forbid, but I won't regale you with the stories of the Holocaust. The tragedy, the humiliation, the pain was just beyond human comprehension. Yet in those days of complete darkness and cruelty, there was something called kindness which existed. So this is the story of Yankel. He was in a car, a cattle car. I don't know how many people were in that cattle car, but I could tell you that the Germans and the wicked ones packed them in literally like cattle with no food or water. In this particular case, Not only were they treated like cattle, they were treated worse than cattle. Because in addition to the fact they were given no food or water, at times, if the rail track was occupied, they would just take the cattle car filled with human beings, your brothers, your sisters, and just shunt it to the side. They didn't allow them to go out to get some fresh air, to stretch and to feel human. They just kept them cooped up. And sometimes a day or two would pass, and then they would just continue the journey. And more often than not, when they reached Auschwitz or something like that, the vast majority of people had died. So Yankel is in this cattle car, and each one has whatever food they were able to take with them, which was sometimes literally crusts of bread. But what bothered them was not the hunger or even the thirst. At the time of the story that I'm telling you, it was the terrible cold. It was simply freezing. During the day, it was open on top. During the day, the sun gave some feeble warmth. But night was pure torture. It was just simply cold. We have people that are starving, people that are emaciated, people that are ill, and there's no covering, just dark night above and a fierce cold in, one that goes into your bones and does not leave. So in the second night, Yankel, who's a 16-year-old boy with a fierce determination to live, notices his Rabbi, a middle-aged gentleman who was once his teacher, and this man did not look well at all. And just by looking at the face, you could see resignation. And Yankel, who was standing very close to him, says, Rabbi, hold on, God will make a miracle. We'll survive, you'll see, we'll survive. And told him all the right words, which the Rebbe used to tell Yankel growing up in a normal world, where there's a God who reveals himself to be kind. And the Rebbe says, I'm too cold, I can't fight anymore. I just want to sleep. And Yankel realizes that if he allows his middle-aged Rebbe to sleep that night, he will not wake up. So Yankel says, Rebbe, I'm going to warm you up. And without exaggeration, Yankel hugs the man and starts moving his hands up and down, trying to create friction, trying to create the sensation of warmth. And when he has the strength, he whispers, Rebbe, hold on, we'll make it, you're feeling warmer. And he was so into this, though he was tired and exhausted himself, he forced himself. He must keep his Rebbe warm. If he does not keep his Rebbe warm, his Rebbe will not make it. Well, dawn broke, and then sunrise, and suddenly people began to feel a little bit of hope, a little bit of the warmth of the sun. And Yankel, for the first time during that night, was able to relax. And then he noticed and became aware of the silence. And as he looked around that box in which human beings were crammed, he realized that the vast majority of them had died during the night. And there was only a couple that remained alive. And at that time, it did not yet hit him. But after he survived the war, he then understood what kept him alive was the fact that he was warming up his Rebbe. And he says this to Rabbi Gajzinski, I never forgot that lesson. If you warm up another Jew, you yourself become warm. If you give life to another, you yourself receive life. Friends, that's kindness in a very, very, very radical way. Kindness doesn't only mean you give. Kindness means you receive in return. Very often the kindness that you bestow upon others can in some way become the kindness that you will receive or your descendants will receive because of that. Friends, just a little bit more kindness. The world is not as dark and as dismal as it was in the 1940s. We are very, very close to a glorious redemption. But each and every one of us can do that, can increase in at least one act of kindness, many acts of kindness. And with these acts, we will usher in truly the redemption of all of humanity, when all of humanity will consider kindness not only a virtue, but a necessity.